Hey again, showing up on camera at the start as required by the algorithm now, along with many other new requirements. Anyways, PayPal, Patreon, everything's down below if you want to support me, or do so if you actually can. So here we are, another month later, and Lake Mead is still dropping. As you can see on the chart, based on the recent years that are also displayed for comparison, it has entered the point of the year where it normally starts to level off. Sometimes will occasionally gain because by the time we're in summer, usually most of the snow that fell in the Rockies is melting and running off into the river. However, problem is, apart from over the course of time there being less snow over the winter and just less rain in the region in general, there was next to no snow last winter. So there is effectively nothing melting up on the Rockies and running off into the rivers. So there's no real water level recovery, not just for Lake Mead, but for Lake Powell either. You can see here that it's gone through a fair part of its normal replenishment phase of the year, and it regained almost nothing, regained a couple feet, and has almost already lost those couple feet of water level, which for Lake Powell is even worse because Lake Powell is already close to the threshold where if it drops any lower, it will start affecting its ability to drain power. 3,490 is the absolute cutoff point for that. However, they basically, if they want to keep generating power from Glen Canyon Dam, stop releasing any water, or at least they try to, by the time it gets down to 3,520. And these are elevation feet. That's the height of the water surface above sea level. It's not the depth of the lake. And in terms of water volume, how much actual, what percent of the water itself remained? Lake Powell is down to only about 20%. Lake Mead is a little bit higher, back up at 28%. But so Lake Powell basically regains nothing and has already lost what it regained and is going to continue going down again until it gets to a point where they have to stop it, unless they do finally make the decision to just let Glen Canyon Dam shut down and just continue releasing the water via the lower outlet, which cannot generate power but does allow the Colorado River to keep flowing, and let Lake Powell continue draining through the remaining 20% that it has. Or they hold off Lake Powell for a while and do another round of sacrificing Flaming Gorge, which is the one last big reservoir upstream along the Colorado River, although it's only 1/6 the size of Lake Mead and Lake Powell. And you can see the steep drops that it's done this year. These were especially the first one, where they dumped out around 10% of its water volume in a matter of days to try to shore up Lake Powell so that they wouldn't have to let Lake Powell go too far, get too close to the power generation intakes. That took Flaming Gorge from around 80 down closer to 70%. So obviously, river management still could do a few more of those before that would start to run out as an option. Basically, Flaming Gorge is getting sacrificed to keep Lake Powell alive, who will eventually, very soon, get sacrificed to keep Lake Mead alive, as Lake Mead is the final line. It's the biggest one. It's also, power generation wise, the most important one, since Las Vegas, 3 million people are right there and kind of need that 2.5 gigawatts of constant baseload power generation. And also, if Lake Mead gets down below a certain point, then the Colorado River would no longer be able to flow. So, apart from causing all the problems already past north of that point, it would then cripple a lot of water access in parts of Arizona, and also the 20 to 25 million plus people in Southern California, as a big chunk of Southern California's water is sucked out of the Colorado River at a point at a specific lake along the border with Arizona, which is why you can see on this lake's chart that that lake's water height, its elevation, almost never changes, because no matter what, enough water, excess water, if the Colorado River would otherwise not be flowing enough, has to keep getting released from Lake Mead, Lake Powell, etc., to make sure that lake on the California border stays at that particular height so that the pipeline intakes can keep sucking water out of it. So that whole leg of water supply for Southern California would also collapse. It's inevitably going to get to a point where decisions are going to have to be made to either, I guess, use big tunnel boring machines and dig deep underneath the dams to the absolute lake beds themselves to make sure every last ounce of water of what little river flow there might be when there's no more excess water from either lake can at least still keep flowing, or inevitably accept that a desert is a desert, abandon Las Vegas, demolish the dams, and kind of just restore the river to whatever it's going to be is whatever it's going to be. But as is the typical case with human civilization from one country to another, when faced with potentially devastating issues, the approach being taken is to pretend it's not there for the moment and just quote unquote cross that bridge when we get to it. Thank you everybody for sticking around and listening. Like if you enjoyed, you can subscribe and stick around for hundreds of other videos across all kinds of different similar and other subjects. PayPal and Patreon links are down below, and the YouTube super whatever button. If you want to support me, only do so if you actually can. There's a link to my cat's YouTube channel in the top pinned comment. May God bless and protect all of you, and I will see you all around next time.